July is a nice time of the year for the temples. It's kind of a little more relaxed. Dharma school is not in session, and so we can kind of talk about a little bit more adult topics. So I'm not going to get racy on you, but we can delve into some areas that maybe are a little bit more difficult for children to understand, and hopefully I can impart some information or some light on some topics. Last week, I know you had your Obon service, and Reverend John was here, and he gave, I'm sure, a wonderful Obon Dharma talk. I was intending to watch it because I'm going to also be talking about Obon, but Reverend John and I never quite covered the same topic, so I figured we probably won't overlap today either. As we all know, Obon is a time of...
Stanley!
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's going to be my topic, why we have Obon. I got this off the web. If you do a search of Vista Buddhist Temple Obon, you get a whole bunch of photographs of your members. So that's going to be our topic today. Yes, and for many of you, this is Stanley Arai. He's a longtime member. Is Stanley here today?
No.
Okay, well, you can tell him he got a little bit of, publicity. Okay.
That's you.
Isn't this nice? This is the Obon flyer. And I also got this off the web. This is, advertising your temple Obon, which is going to be happening in a couple weeks.
Woo.
And it's a time to really, kick some rear and kick your heels up and dance and eat food. And we also can listen to the Dharma because there are study classes, or there's a kind of a talk that's going to be given, I think, by the MAs for your festival. So anyway, all of you should be coming in 2 weeks if you have the inclination, want to dance and eat. Here's another group of people. There's Katie, yeah. So there's more Vista people. So this is kind of what you'll see if you come.
Do me nice.
So besides the fun and excitement of Obon, this is also a time for deep reflection. As we kind of go to what the real reason for having Obon, and it's to reflect on the lives of our departed loved ones. It's kind of a celebration of their lives and to a time of remembrance. So there's, besides the fun part, there's also this very contemplative and deeper side to Obon, which I want to explore with you today. I think sometimes we miss that, and so I'm going to remind you about what that is. For me, this year, this Obon has even more of a special meaning for two very special reasons. One sad and one not so sad. We had I'm a minister at the Orange County Buddhist Church, and we had the passing of a very beloved temple member recently, and we actually had her funeral yesterday, which I'm going to share with you a little bit about her life and the meaning that she has for us. The other event that I wanted to talk to you about is the 100th birthday celebration of a very dear friend, my mother's best friend, and who has been a religious and a spiritual mentor for me since I came back to the temple in 2004, and has been an important teacher for me. Well, she's turning 100 next Sunday. So she's also someone that kind of brought me to think a little bit deeper about this Obon season. So first, I wanted to talk about Carrie, who is our temple member. And her death came after a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer at the end of April. So she passed away within 2 months. It was a lightning and very devastating passing for her family and for all the members of our Sangha. And I was a witness to an incredible outpouring of care and support for her family and for the Sangha. And I'm sure, and I know, most of you have also experienced a loss of someone dear to you in your lives, and you understand this deep sense of sadness and loss that you feel when someone like that passes. So again, then the second person that I wanted to talk to you about is my mother's friend Sachi Ochiai. As I mentioned, she will be turning 100 next week. Last Monday, they had a special ceremony for her along with all the seniors who celebrate their July birthdays at OCBC, which is what we call Orange County Buddhist Church. We have a monthly senior lunch, and every month they celebrate the seniors who have a birthday that month. And so they wanted to make a little bit of a more special event because of Sachi turning 100. So there's the Obon season, and of course, always connected to that is Hatsuban, which is a special service that we do during Obon for, besides kind of a regular Obon service, which commemorates or we reflect on our loved ones. Hatsuban is a special service that we also conduct that kind of commemorates the passing of a loved one within this previous past year. It's because the loss is so much more immediate, we have this special service called Hatsuban. So we have this Obon, we have Hatsuban around this time of year. We had the passing of our temple member Carrie, and then we had Sachi's birthday. And so these three immediate real-life situations made me ponder again the meaning of our Shin path and its path to awakening, and to consider actually what all of this means. So trying to make sense of this, I recalled these words from our founder, Shinran Shonin, from his Kyogyo Shinshu, which is his master work. He said, "Reverently contemplating the true essence of the Pure Land Way, I see that Amita's directing of virtue to sentient beings has two aspects. The aspect for our going forth to the Pure Land, and the aspect for our return to this world." And hopefully I can kind of parse this for you to make it a little more understandable. Maybe this doesn't make a whole lot of sense yet. But these words come from chapter 1 from Shinran's Kyogyo Shinsho, which is his master work. And it encapsulates, the Kyogyo Shinsho encapsulates his understanding of the Buddhist path and our way to awakening, to a life of what we call a Nembutsu life, a life of Shinjin, a life of awakening and liberation. So the first part, I'll just briefly touch on, where it talks about Amita's directing of virtue to sentient beings. This means Amita's compassion for my liberation is directed to me. And with that necessary aid, I can reach awakening. In other words, we can use our Buddhahood, nirvana, liberation. All of those are kind of a term that we used for this life of awakening. But the parts that I want to focus on are the ones that are bolded and underlined, and there's kind of two aspects. The aspect for our going forth to the Pure Land talks about our striving for attainment, for Shinjin awakening, for Buddhahood, for enlightenment. The Pure Land symbolizes our awakening, and it's not a physical destination. I think sometimes, maybe in ancient times, people were more apt to think of the Pure Land in more concrete terms, like maybe a Christian heaven, but Shinran never really talked about the Pure Land in terms of a place that you go to. The Pure Land is more a state of mind, it's a life of awakening. So what we strive for as Buddhists is to go forth to this sense of awakening. And I love that Enso symbol. It actually comes from Zen, but it represents this life of awakening. So it's a really cool symbol to use. So we as sentient, flawed human beings are striving for awakening. So the kind of the Buddhist joke, which I'm terrible with jokes, and this is not a very funny joke, but the idea is that after you die, you go to the Pure Land and no one's there. So the reason, and is what I'm going to get to next. Okay, so I'm glad I got a few chuckles. All right, so what really happens, and it has to do with this aspect for a return to this world. So the reason why nobody is in the Pure Land is because everybody comes back to our world to become bodhisattvas, to help lead us to awakening and to realization. And I'm going to hopefully help you understand how they do that in very concrete and real ways. So let's think about Obon, a funeral, a 100th birthday celebration, and even the monthly Shotsuki Hoyo memorial service. I don't know if Vista, does this do a Shotsuki Hoyo? Well, many temples will do a monthly memorial service. Memorial services are conducted for the remembrance of our loved ones. So we attend these events to remember, honor, and show respect for our loved ones. So who is benefiting from this activity? In the case of a funeral, obviously we are receiving relief from the grief and sadness that we are going through, particularly in an immediate case of a loss of a loved one. In the case of memorial services, we feel a sense of satisfaction for doing the right thing by our family member. And many times we're hoping that we're modeling, sort of this good behavior for our children and that they're paying attention. So, you're kind of doing it for their benefit as well. So in most cases, we think we're doing something for our loved ones, whether it's our children, for other family members that are, we're kind of showing them that this is a good thing to do. And we think that we're doing this for our departed loved one. So what I want to ask you is, did you ever consider that our departed loved one was actually doing something for you? So I will suggest that they are bringing you to the temple to listen to the Dharma. And particularly in a case of a funeral, at a time when you are most vulnerable and in pain. Your heart and mind are opened and most ready to receive the teachings. In that regard, your loved one has become a bodhisattva for you. And this is the aspect of their return to this world, to help to lead you and others to awakening. So that's a very concrete thing. And it's the same thing with our teachers. All the seven masters, Shinran, they've come back through their writings, through their teachings, to become bodhisattvas for us, to help lead us to a life of awakening. So I saw this very, very concretely in the case of our temple member, Carrie, even before she passed away. I mean, as you know, there was, her illness came upon really suddenly. It was the end of April that she found out, and she went into chemotherapy right away. Right away, they found that chemo was not helping, and she immediately went into hospice. So there was this real sense of urgency within our Sangha that, this is going to happen very quickly. We didn't know when she was going to go, but we just knew that we didn't have much time. And all through this, she would get visitors. She was, as I mentioned, very beloved. Many people went to see her, but she was very careful about who she let come mom because she was so weak and really was just kind of wanting to be careful with that. So one of the things but Reverend Harada went to see her and a few other people, and they were saying that her acceptance and graciousness with this situation was incredible. She was taking care of the people who came to see her more than they were coming to take care of her. Reverend Harada even mentioned that. He said, she was the one that was reassuring everyone, I'm going to be fine. She was accepting of her situation and was really more concerned about everyone else's welfare. She was a member of our Adult Buddhist Association, and so a group of them organized a gathering on a Saturday, probably about 2 weeks before she passed away. And what we did was we folded 1,000 paper cranes for her. All together, she caused this group of people to get together. There must have been 30 or 40 of these people sitting at someone's house, folding cranes, and it was a way, that we hoped that we could express our concern, our love, and care for her. But I made a comment to some of the people there that Carrie actually was giving us an opportunity to be together and to help heal each other. Carrie brought this group of people together. In that way, Carrie had been a bodhisattva, a person who was, again, caring for us in a way that we weren't really aware of. There was this outpouring of sadness at our adult study class 2 weeks ago. I was there as the presiding minister, and we talked about her because it had only been a few days since she actually passed away, and she again was there to bring forth a life of Nembutsu, and one of our members said, it's just so sad. And I told him at that time, it is sad, very sad. I said, but what that sadness tells you is the depth of your feelings for her, and how fortunate that you could love someone so deeply and so caringly that you could feel such sadness. It was something that I learned from Reverend Taitetsu Uno, who consoled someone who had lost something very dear to her in that way. So, you kind of turn around this sadness in a way to make it something really beautiful and meaningful. So on a little bit lighter note, I wanted to talk also about my friend Sachi Ochiai. Some of you know Sachi. She's been a long-time member of Orange County Temple, and she has kind of the same effect, but under happier circumstances. At 100, she looks pretty good there, but she's frail. I try to see her almost every week, and she is my mom's best friend. The two were like Mutt and Jeff, going to conferences, retreats. They were Dharma sisters through and through. They spent the last 20 to 25 years together as widows, where they would travel to all of these Buddhist events together, and my mom would always save a seat for Sachi in any kind of a talk, because Sachi was the chatterbox. She was the social one. My mom was the quiet one. So Sachi would be off socializing and talking, and my mom would go right to the seat, and they would always sit in the very front of any lecture and have the first two seats. So they kind of had this standard place of going every time. So at 100, everybody wanted to do something for Sachi. I talked to her about it. I said, BWA wants to do kind of a special celebration at the monthly senior lunch. And she says, I don't know if I want to do that. She didn't really care to have everyone celebrate. But she did it for us. She did agree to come, and 100 people showed up for this. It was, again, an incredible outpouring of caring and concern and support and love. Because at 100, everybody's thinking, you know, she's not going to be around that much longer. Although looking at her, she's still as feisty and opinionated and loves to give everyone a hard time as ever. You know, she's quite the personality. And nobody wants to lose Sachi. And so we're just kind of hoping she stays around for another, 10 years or so. But I don't know. You know, every year, we just never know. Anyway, she was able to bring all of us together in a very loving and beautiful way. So now I want you to look at these numbers. Does anyone know what these are?
Memorial services?
Yes, who said that? Okay, Carol, you get the prize. So, you're right. These are the special memorial services, and those numbers represent the years that you hold a special memorial service. As I mentioned, you know, some temples have a monthly Shotsuki Hoyo with service. At OCDC, we do it on a Saturday. It's usually the first Saturday of the month. And typically what happens is if your loved one passed away in that month, you go to the Shotsuki Hoyo service. But on these particular years, you have a special service, a special remembrance of the person who passed away. And those numbers represent the number of years after they have passed that you have a special service. I used to think that this was a silly thing to do. I mean, going on 17, 25, 33, 50 years, 100 years after someone has passed away, who remembers that person? So on our side, we continue to do this to show respect, gratitude, and to honor our loved one who passed away. Grandchildren, great-grandchildren, you of course maybe never even knew this person. However, on the other side, our loved one is bringing us to the temple to listen to the Dharma. And isn't that the work of a bodhisattva? So here's a stylized bodhisattva, but a bodhisattva can be anything, anybody, any experience that brings you closer to awakening, shinjin, enlightenment, nirvana. You know, all of those are kind of synonyms for the same kind of thing. So, when you do a Shotsuki Hoyo, when you do a memorial service, when you go to a funeral, you think about how that person has brought you to listen to the Dharma. Okay. Please join me in Gasho.